Marcia Thompson was fed up. Her husband, Terry, had been arguing with her for hours, and she'd had it. So she shot and killed him while he was lying on the couch. And she didn't shoot him just one time or just 2 times. She shot him 9 times. So let's go back to the early morning hours of August 9th of 2019. You're going to hear that the police responded to a home out in Loxahatchee on Murcott Drive. That's where they saw this defendant coming out of the home. She was wearing a full police uniform, duty belt around her waist, had everything in it, but it was missing one thing: her duty firearm. That firearm was on the refrigerator inside of the house where she was instructed to leave it since she had just used it to shoot her husband. First responders go inside of the home, and when they get there, they see Terry Thompson lying face down in front of the couch. They can tell just by looking that there are apparent gunshot wounds to his back, because that's what they can see. And they find this defendant and Terry's young children in their bedrooms. Now you're going to hear
Oh, and as you can see, the audio just dropped out. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit a break. We'll see if we can get the audio repaired, see what's going on with it. We'll be right back as those opening statements are getting underway in this trial that we're calling the abused wife or murderer trial. That's what the jury's going to have to decide, if the shooting was an abused woman who did this in self-defense or if this was a cold-blooded murder. We'll be right back. Did a customs agent commit cold-blooded murder?
Marcia Thompson is accused of fatally shooting her husband as he's lying on a couch.
She's claiming self-defense, alleging that Terry Thompson repeatedly threatened to kill her.
So what really happened inside this home?
Now a jury will decide the fate of this law enforcement officer.
And Court TV will bring it all to you.
The abused wife or murderer trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. Okay, so the audio issue is all fixed. It was going on with the court. It wasn't a Court TV issue, but the in-house audio system in that courtroom just kind of dropped out. They did a sidebar, and then they went back on the record. And so what we did was we captured it. We'll hit the rewind button right now, so you'll see everything from the moment that she stopped talking until now. Take a look.
So I was talking about crime scene. And you're going to get to see what that crime scene looked like before it was disturbed at all. And then you're going to hear how they document this crime scene. You're going to get to see and hear about the fact that there were no weapons around Mr. Thompson at all. The only things even close to Mr. Thompson were a blanket, a pillow, a laptop, and a heating pad that he had been laying on. But you aren't going to have to analyze this crime scene by yourself. Not only are you going to hear from the crime scene investigator that went out to the scene, you're also going to hear from somebody named Daniel Steelman. And Mr. Steelman is actually a lieutenant with the Baldwin County Sheriff's Office. Now, Baldwin County's in Alabama, but he's also going to tell you that he works for a company and he's an expert in crime scene reconstruction techniques. And he's going to explain how he used bloodstain pattern analysis and ballistics reconstruction to determine the positioning of Terry Thompson when he was shot. And here's what he's going to tell you. He's going to tell you that Terry Thompson was laying on his back on the couch when he was shot twice in the chest. And that the third shot came as his arm is coming across his body, as he's rolling off the couch. He's going to explain to you how he knows this. And then he's going to explain how Terry Thompson fell face first off the couch, where he was then shot 6 times in the back. You're also going to hear from the lead detective in this case, Detective Jeremy Gelfand. And he's going to explain all about his investigation, what he did once he got out to Murcott Drive. And the bulk of his testimony and the bulk of his investigation is going to involve his interviews with this defendant. There were 2 of them. And you're going to have an opportunity to hear them. They were audio recorded in like a command bus that was brought out to the scene. You're going to hear what happened from this defendant's point of view. That she and Terry had been arguing for several hours. That the argument started when Terry was on his way home from Broward County on the phone and continued after he got home. He was in Broward County, as you'll hear in the interview, because he had been having migraines over several days. And you're going to hear over the course of that interview about all of the ailments that Mr. Thompson had, that he had back problems, that he had neck problems. You're also going to hear that the entirety of the interaction between Terry Thompson and Marcia Thompson that night until shots were fired was verbal. And what you'll hear is during this verbal argument that at some point this defendant goes into her bedroom to get ready for work, and she estimates that took about 15 minutes for her to get ready for work. She put on her uniform, she put her hair up, she put in her earrings, and then she tells Detective Gelfand that the next thing she remembers is hearing shots. Now, another thing you're going to hear in that statement is about the background of the relationship between Terry Thompson and this defendant. Not going to sugarcoat it for you. It was a tumultuous relationship. There are allegations of domestic violence. She talks about specific instances in the past of violence. Doesn't really paint Mr. Thompson in the best light. But what you're going to hear from that statement is that on that night, the most egregious thing that Terry Thompson used were his words. He made threats, but he did absolutely nothing in furtherance of those threats. Now, the state also anticipates that you're going to hear from some witnesses about specific acts of violence by Terry Thompson. And it's likely going to be hard to hear. We talked a little bit about that in jury selection. But at the end of this trial, the judge is going to instruct you on the law. And specifically, the law on when it is acceptable to use deadly force. And when you apply the facts of this case from this night, on August 9th of 2019, the fact that Terry Thompson was laying on the couch under a blanket and a pillow, unarmed, just using his words, you are going to find that there was no imminent threat of death or great bodily harm to this defendant. She didn't like what he was saying, she was fed up, and she wanted to put an end to it. So she did. And the state is confident that after hearing all of this evidence, that you will find her guilty of first-degree murder. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolinski. Ms. Michelli, do you wish to have an opening statement?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Marcia Thompson is not guilty. The evidence will show you that after several years of physical, emotional, psychological, and sexual abuse, Terry Thompson, her husband, had made a decision to kill her, and he told her that he was going to do it. The evidence will show that Marcia and Terry met in college. He was Marcia's first and only boyfriend. They dated for several years before they got married and had 2 children. He was 13 years older than Marcia Thompson. At first, he was very charming, but not long after they started dating, the affection turned to jealousy and control, psychological and emotional abuse. It started with insisting that Marcia Thompson have a phone on her 24 hours a day, answer the calls in the middle of the night, whether she had a test the next day, no matter what was going on. The phone rings, she better pick it up. It went into calling her constantly to see where she is and what she's doing, controlling who she was allowed to speak to, where she was allowed to go, where she was allowed to be, what she was allowed to do, what she was allowed to wear, where she was allowed to work. And certainly, it was that she was to obey Terry Thompson and never talk back. After several years, in 2006, it evolved into the darkness of physical violence. You will hear their arguments were typically about 2 things. 1, Terry Thompson habitually accused her of cheating or flirting or inappropriate behavior in that sense. And 2, Marcia Thompson simply wasn't good enough. She wasn't a good enough wife. She wasn't a good enough mother. She wasn't a good enough worker. She wasn't a good enough person. She wasn't pretty enough. Her hair wasn't right. Her clothes weren't right. She didn't do enough for the family. In 2006, Terry Thompson accused Marcia of being unfaithful, and in a fit of rage, he violently attacked her. He pushed her, he punched her, he choked her, and he sexually assaulted her by penetrating her with a lotion bottle. Marcia Thompson was shocked. She did not fight back. She forgave her husband when he apologized. The control and the berating continued, but things were fairly calm for about a year until an incident where Marcia Thompson's work phone rang very late at night. Okay? Terry Thompson became enraged, insisting that it meant that Marcia was cheating on him. He attacked her. He pulled her hair, pulled her down to the ground, kicked her in the stomach, and choked her. He apologized, and she forgave him. But unfortunately, the abuse became commonplace in the relationship. On approximately a monthly basis, Terry Thompson would push, hit, shove, kick Marcia Thompson. The sexual abuse and instances were less often, but more violent and more intense. They resulted in injuries to her and bleeding. Each time, he would apologize, and each time she would forgive him. He also started to inform Marcia Thompson about facts about his prior violence against women, which she hadn't known about until then. He told her about it himself, and he even bragged about it and used it as something to scare her further with. The evidence will show that in 2011, independent witnesses called the police after Terry Thompson attacked Marcia Thompson in public. She was holding their 1-year-old daughter when he dragged her by her hair and punched her repeatedly. She was hospitalized. On another occasion, in 2016, a few years later, you will hear witness testimony as well about an occasion where a friend witnessed the violence of Terry Thompson toward Marcia Thompson. In addition to these abuses and to recounting to Marcia how he abused other women and others in order to scare her, he would also act out violently in front of Marcia toward other people on a regular basis. Over the years, there were ups and downs. There were lulls. When Marcia Thompson had a baby, there might pass a couple of years without a extremely violent outburst, but the emotional and psychological control was always there. Now, the year that was leading up to the incident of the shooting, in that year, the abuse was increasing, both in number of incidents and also in intensity. During this time, the evidence will show that Terry Thompson began threatening to kill Marcia Thompson. He threatened her with a machete that he kept by the bed and constantly spoke about. He actually went after her with the machete. He threatened her by putting a gun to her and threatening to shoot if she didn't, quote unquote, tell the truth about cheating, what he thought to be cheating. He started telling her that it's not just her, that he would hurt her family members, that he would kill them. He also became increasingly violent toward their young children, in particular their son, who was 6 and 7 years old at this time. He would keep knives hidden around the house and remind her that she may know where some of them are, but she doesn't know where all of them are, and that he could kill her at any time. The evidence will show that a year before the shooting, Marcia and Terry went out golfing with friends and coworkers of Marcia's. Instead of a nice time, Terry Thompson went after an elderly gentleman with a golf club to try and harm him. Marcia was watching the entire time. Terry Thompson blamed Marcia for this event. He believed she was having an affair with one of her coworkers. He punished her. But what was different this time is that Terry Thompson was no longer apologizing. That's a change after all these years. He wasn't apologizing. He was continuing to berate and blame Marcia, and he was unable to let it go. Months were passing. He was continuing to bring it up and start fights and arguments and physical assaults on Marcia because of this incident. Terry Thompson, soon after, called members of Marcia's immediate family, her father, her grandmother, her brother, and told them they would regret it. He would kill them. While Marcia was watching him crying in the background while he made these calls. He forced Marcia to make a sexual harassment complaint against a coworker. She did it. She did whatever he asked. He began contacting her boss to complain about what had happened at the golfing incident. He started calling Marcia even more often at work, incessantly calling and calling and calling, and she better take that call no matter what. He also started following Marcia, stalking her, watching her, and telling her, I am watching you all the time. If I see you with Brandon Steiner, this coworker, I will kill you both. If I see you somewhere you're not supposed to be, I will kill you. Throughout the relationship, but particularly in the last year, Marcia did anything and everything to appease Terry Thompson, to try to calm him down, to get him to move forward, to be sweet with him. But nothing worked. It stopped working. His rage persisted. You will hear from her boss that Marcia was bringing her kids to work every day after school so as not to leave them with Terry Thompson. You will hear that Terry Thompson didn't work. Marcia Thompson did work full-time. She would have to get her kids and bring them there to try to protect them at every moment that she could. In the very early hours of August 9th, 2019, Terry Thompson was driving home. Marcia had to be at work at 6 a.m. But instead of sleeping, she was on the phone with Terry, trying to calm him down while he berated her for not being a good mother, doing enough at home, doing enough for the family, doing good at her job. And again, the golfing incident. By the time he arrived home, he was irate. He came in with a demeanor, with a way about him that Marcia Thompson saw a difference, recognized it, and she knew what was coming. He threw a TV remote at her as she tried to calm him on the couch and hand him a remote so he could watch TV. He threw the remote at her, hit her in the chest. Marcia continued to try to calm him down. She started to rub his feet. That was something that he liked, and that was something that she generally did in the relationship to help him feel better, to calm him down. She started rubbing his feet, speaking to him sweetly, but nothing worked. He told her. He may have said it before, but it's different this time. This time, I'm going to kill you. Kept repeating it no matter what she did. He knew she had to get to work. He knew she had to get dressed. It's getting close to 5 o'clock in the morning. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave him in that state. She has her 2 children to sleep. She doesn't want to leave and go to work. She makes a phone call. She makes a phone call to a coworker to see if someone can cover for her so she doesn't have to go. She's not able to reach anyone. She discusses with him that she has to go to work. He says, I know why you're going over there, and I'll knife him. He's saying, I know you're going to work just
My gosh, this woman suffered. Listening to this, I mean, can you believe what she endured through all these years? I have to hand it to defense counsel. She is doing a tremendous job bringing in what are called these prior bad acts. She got a ruling ahead of time, most likely from the court, so she's putting it before the jury in opening statements. Very, very smart. Primacy and recency wins the day in trial work. And I have to hand it to both of these lawyers, as it is not easy to talk with a stick mic. They have to hold a stick mic because of the audio problems going on in the courtroom. That is not easy to do. You know, when you're not a singer or someone who's doing public speaking for a living, they're lawyers. They're both doing an outstanding job. We're going to hit pause. You're going to see the rest of the defense opening statements live after this.
Hey.
He's saying, I know you're going to work just to be with Brandon Steiner, and I'll knife him. She's at a loss for what to do. Can't find anyone to cover. Can't leave here and leave my kids alone with this man. He's continuously saying he's going to kill her. She leaves to go to the other room, getting dressed. As she's in that room, he's continuously calling out threats to her. He had ready access to numerous weapons. He had a machete by the bed that he had used to be violent toward her and had told her how he had used it against other women in the past as well. He would keep knives in different places, like we discussed, and in fact, a common place for him to keep a knife was in the couch he was on between the cushions. He had a golf club, which you'll see was in the corner of the room, feet away from him. He had removed the head of the golf club, and that was there to discipline Marcia and the children. There was a gun in the house that he had had access to, and he insisted to always have access to the gun. And he had prior threatened her with that gun. He had access, ready access to all of this within seconds, and she didn't know what might be in the couch. And the last thing he said to her was, if you come out of that room, I'm going to kill you. By this time, she's dressed, walking out of the room, has her duty weapon on her. And in an act of self-defense, with an imminent danger of death or great bodily harm, Marcia Thompson shot Terry Thompson. She immediately called 911. She proceeded to fully cooperate with the entire investigation with every officer. What you didn't hear is that she told them that she was afraid, that he told her he was going to kill her, that there was a history of violence, that she felt he was going to kill her. She still believed he would have killed her, that she acted in self-defense. You will hear testimony from a forensic psychologist, a Dr. Michael Brannon, who will explain to you what battered women's syndrome or battered spouse syndrome is, the research in the field, and his evaluation of Marcia Thompson. He will testify that as the syndrome relates to self-defense, the battered woman's perception of imminent danger is affected by her experiences in the abusive relationship. That a battered woman will be reasonably in fear of death or great bodily harm in a situation that another person who was not the victim of repeat abuse would not. Dr. Brandon will explain the cycle of violence, the attack, the violence, the apology, the period of peace, and how a victim of domestic violence is affected over time. He will testify as to why a battered woman would feel that leaving a relationship is impossible. Dr. Brandon will also testify that a battered woman, as a means of survival, develops a sense of what is happening with her abuser. How upset is he? How bad will the abuse be? Is this different? Is this worse? Marcia Thompson wasn't fed up because of a night where she was forced to stay up awake before work to argue with her husband again. She was the victim of abuse for many, many years. She was exhausted and in horrible, unbearable fear. Terry Thompson was telling her he was going to kill her. She could see it was different. With the escalating violence and the violence in front of others, he was losing control of himself. She knew he was going to kill her. He had every ability to kill her. She couldn't leave her children there like that. She couldn't just let herself be killed. She had to protect her life. She had to protect her children's life. We ask that you pay very close attention to the evidence in this case. No one will decide whether Marcia Thompson defended herself except for you. No one can decide for you or interpret the law for you. You will apply the law, and you will decide if Marcia Thompson reasonably believed that she was in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm. Don't be distracted by crime scene evidence where Marcia Thompson has always admitted that she shot Terry Thompson. Once you hear and see the evidence, you will know that Marcia Thompson defended herself. We trust that you will return the only just verdict, a verdict of not guilty.